Hey everyone, welcome back to Mid-Ohio for Race 2. So in Race 1 we started 13th and finished 13th, but unfortunately we're going to be even worse off for Race 2, having qualified a lowly 17th out of 20 cars. Now at this point in the weekend I've realized that something is not right. We really shouldn't be this far down in the standings. I don't feel like it's my driving, since I actually think I've been driving pretty well this weekend, so it must be something wrong with the car. So by now at this point in the weekend I've adjusted my mindset from trying to get a good result to trying to troubleshoot what might be wrong with the car, as well as to just enjoy spending a summer weekend driving a really cool car at one of my favorite tracks. Speaking of the track, let's take a look at it briefly. Two good passing zones, one into the keyhole and then another one immediately after it down the long back straight into turn 4. So you might think twice about making a pass into the keyhole, since you're just going to be setting yourself up to be attacked into turn 4. So we're starting 17th. Let's see if we can scrape together some kind of a result here and hopefully try to figure out what's wrong with the car along the way. Coming around the keyhole to take the start. Again, we're starting on the inside, which I think is I'm not sure if that's an advantage or not, because you're going to be on the outside for turn 5 when you go up the crest, which is not going to put you in a great position to defend in a really tough spot. There's the green flag. Tom Schweitz moves to the inside, but he can't get any advantage. We get a decent start for once. Trying to look for a hole, but also trying to play it safe, because if we have any contact, then we're probably going to be out for at least the next race. And we're on the outside, which is not a good place to be. You can see Tom Schweitz keeping the inside. I think we got one spot, at least. As I said, Tom's a really hard driver to get around. Misses the apex. Let's see if we can take advantage of that. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, since this part of the track is pretty tight and all the corners come up pretty quick. Let's try to get a good exit. We were able to make up one spot on the first lap in turn 1, the second lap rather, the first time through turn 1, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen this time. Maybe we can get a good exit, trying to get him in the keyhole. Have to check up a little bit. He misses the apex. He's offline a little bit, or maybe we're offline, pinching it in too much. Looks like we're not going to be able to get him, but hopefully we can get a good exit through the keyhole and get him into turn 5, or turn 4 rather. We're able to do that. We're right up on his gearbox on the exit. This should give us enough chance. Of course, he's going to have the draft from the car in front of him, so it's going to make it a little bit more difficult as he pulls away, actually. And that's not how that's supposed to happen. We're too far back to make a move this time. We want to get around him as quickly as we can, because eventually he's going to lose touch of those cars in front, and we want to get around him while we still have them within reach, so that we can just pick them off straight after we pick him off. But of course, with such an ill-handling car, even that's not really a given this weekend for us. Get a lot of wheel spin as I get my wheels up on that curb. And these cars have an open differential, so all the power is going to go to the wheel that has the least amount of grip. So once you get the wheel spinning like that, you really have to come way off the throttle, and you can see Tom pulls out a pretty decent gap. Maybe we can use that to our advantage. If we can get a good run through the keyhole, we can use the momentum out of the corner rather than just depending on the draft. Late apex, get on the power as early as we can. And he's actually pulling away from us. He must have a really good engine. I think that maybe second gear was a little bit too long. I used the same gears as last year. But of course we had a different engine last year, so maybe we weren't able to detect it. But we're able to close it right up on him in turn 4. But something is causing him to go down the straights really, really well. Or is maybe hampering our attempts, or our car. Something is. Now it looks like, if you look in the mirror, it looks like nobody's behind us. The gap behind us has grown a lot, so I'm at the psychological advantage since I don't have to worry about being attacked, so I can keep all of my attention on what's going on in front of me and trying to get in front of Tom Schweitz and try to move my way back up the order. Again, every time coming out of the keyhole, he just starts pulling away. And the part of the track where I should be pulling up towards him. Bit of oversteer as I miss the apex. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I must have missed the gear on the downshift. Of course, we're not using the clutch. So it's a downshift. I kind of just bang on the throttle with my right foot, and just sort of jam the gear in the lower gear. And sometimes if your rhythm gets messed up, it can move things out of whack and you get out of rhythm, and it's kind of hard to discern what goes wrong. You just have to hope that you don't do it again the next time you go through that corner. And this time it looks like we get a good exit finally. Staying with us, but he's not pulling away like he has in the past. Maybe we can make our move this time. Try to get as close as I can. I move out, use that momentum to get around him and try to outbrake him. He's going to hold the outside, which is going to put him in a better spot to defend, as looks like we got past him and he's behind us, so there's no way he can defend through the left-hander here. Now we just have to shift our focus to the cars in front, have to not worry about him. As you can see, he's already fading back. Try to string together a good couple corners, get some distance between him and us, and focus on closing the gap to the cars in front. Now we're going to try and chase down Chris Kierce and this Black Van Diemen in front of us. Now, even though there's a bit of distance between us, this is the part of the track where I'm the most vulnerable, because Tom does have a very, very powerful engine or something in that car. So even though he's a little ways back, he might be able to close the gap here. And there's nothing I can do about it, really. I'm just a sitting duck. But it looks like he's definitely not close enough to make a move. So hopefully we're far enough away now. And each time we go through these twisty bits, I'm going to be a little bit faster than him. So that gap is going to grow, even though it closes up on the straightaways. So I just have to focus and be as efficient as I can through the twisty parts of the track. I just hope that it takes care of itself. Last lap was our best lap again, so that's the kind of thing that we want. We want each clear lap to be faster than the last one, and of course, you know, if you're battling with someone, it might slow you down, but also the draft might help you make up some of that, so it's a little bit difficult to say. But if it looks like we're catching these guys just a little bit, as they're all fighting amongst each other. But again, right now they have the draft, and it looks like Tom Schweitz is way far away from us, so we can keep our eyes in front of us and just focus on trying to stay with these guys as much as we can. Bump here at the apex. So try to take this as gingerly as you can. Because you're afraid that it's going to upset the rear of the car. You're afraid that it's going to upset how the power gets distributed, especially with the open differential. Starting to look like that pack in front of us is dragging itself away from us just a little bit. Big oversteer there, and through turn 6 and through, I think it's turn 10 up here, and this sort of uphill right here, and you can see the back end is moving around quite a bit. And if you remember to our last race in Montreal, I was complaining a lot of corner entry oversteer. But of course in Canada we were using completely different tires, which will change the handling characteristics pretty drastically, or at least they can. And I'm starting to suspect that the problems that we're facing this weekend are coming from some changes that we were trying to make when we went back from the tires we used in Canada to these ones. So to deal with the corner entry oversteer, what we were doing was lowering the rear ride height, which would lower the center of gravity and give you some more grip in the rear. But we're doing it without, we were just eyeballing it. Or rather, we made those changes, then we tried to change them back when we came here to Mid-Ohio and put the Hoosier tires back on. And we never put it on the setup pad. We just kind of eyeballed the changes. And what can happen when you do that is that the corner weight distribution is really sensitive to those kinds of changes. And they can have a huge effect on the handling. So I'm starting to think what happened was when we made those changes, one of the side effects was that it changed the distribution of weight to each of the 4 tires, and that's what's starting to mess up the handling, and one of the reasons why we might be so uncompetitive this weekend. So that's something to keep in mind throughout this race and through the next one. So as I said, we're trying to troubleshoot what might be wrong with the car. I don't think it's an engine thing, despite the fact that Tom Schweitz gets a much better run down the back straightaway than we do. I think the engine is okay. It feels okay. One issue might be that it's really hot, and our car doesn't really cool itself very well, especially if we're in a draft, because less air gets into the radiators. But I don't think that that's going to cause us to be so uncompetitive. So we can sort of set that one aside. I don't think it's an engine problem. I do think that second gear is a bit too tall. So that might be a little bit, but that would not drop us down as far as we are now. And I think it's about this point where I start to think about the changes that we've been making. As you can see, one car off on the grass. That's going to help us out. I can't quite see who that is. It looks like a white car, so it's probably one of the Cahill cars. And I'd imagine that once they get back up to speed, they're going to make pretty quick work out of us. But I've started to think over the changes that we've made to the car since Montreal. Because we had those handling problems, but it was still fairly competitive. We were sort of in and out of the top 10. And this weekend, it's just not going anywhere. So I remind myself that I've made those changes to the suspension, or to the ride height, and start thinking about, well, okay, what would it look like if the corner weights are messed up? Well, one of the major symptoms is that it will handle really well in some corners going one direction, but not so well in the other. And that has to do with the weight distribution across the front tires. I think I'll try to talk a bit more about it in the next video, since when I get into a fight, you can really see where it really illustrates the problems really well. But at this point, I'm not entirely sure. I'm starting to form these ideas in my head. Just trying to, again, figure out why the car is not working as well as it should. Again, I feel like my driving was pretty good. We were able to pull away from Tom Schweitz despite him having a really good run down the main straightaway. And I just sort of self-assessment, I think if you put me in one of the Cahill or Pelfrey cars, I still might not be driving well enough to stay with the front guys. But I'm definitely driving, putting in a top 10 performance at least in terms of my driving, and the car just doesn't seem to be up to it. See this Cahill car looming in my mirror. We're trying to not make it too difficult or too easy for him. Once he does catch up to us, there's really no point in fighting with him, since he's gonna sort of just storm his way past us. So if he gets up close to us and moves to the inside, I'm not going to make a defensive line or anything. It's pretty pointless. But we're not going to make it easy for him. We're not going to just roll out the red carpet. We're going to try to drive as well as we can to keep him as far behind us as we can for as long as we can. And maybe we'll force him into another mistake, and that'll drop him farther behind us, or maybe he'll catch us and pass us. And if that's, we were gifted this position anyway, so if it's taken away from us again, we're sort of, you win some, you lose some, I guess. And still having corner entry oversteer issues, even on these tires. Big slide. That's one of my favorite corners on the track. I love the amount of grip that you can carry up the hill. And then it lightens out and it gets a bit squirrely as you're trying to get the power down. Getting the exit there a little bit too wide. You want to stay on that left-hander. You want to stay flat out. But if you're coming into it that far to the left, then you're not going to be able to. Looking in my mirror, I thought that was one of the Cahill cars that went off, but now I'm starting to wonder if that's not Tom Schweitz that sort of snuck his way back up behind us. The last several laps we put in were not quite up to our best, so maybe he's found something, or maybe we've lost a little bit. But if it was one of the Cahill cars, they would have passed us by now for sure. I wonder if they ingested a lot of grass in their radiators or something and had to make a pit stop to clear that out, which would put them pretty far behind us. But I think there's a good chance that the car behind us right now is actually Tom Schweitz, and that he's closing the gap a bit, because we've lost touch from that group of cars that was in front of us. Our last lap was still within half a second of our best, within 0.3, so we haven't slowed down too much, and it looks like we've taken heed of the warning, and we've been able to pull ahead a little bit. Of course, it's kind of hard to tell from a video camera looking into a mirror how far he is. Something happened and he really started catching us. We're only 0.2 slower than our best lap, so something must be going on here. Who is that behind us? Oh, that's Burton August. I'm actually not really sure how he got behind us. And it looks like someone is following him too, because that's definitely not Tom Schweitz. Let's see if we can get him back going into turn 4. We're not going to be quite close enough to do it. Let's try to stick with him through the rest of the lap and try and get him on the next lap. Of course, this is a 2-car group now, so we're pressuring the car in front of us and we're being attacked. That looks like Chris Kieris. I don't know how these guys got behind me. looks like we're holding off the car behind us pretty well. But we are starting to lose touch from Burton. There's the white flag, so we've got one more lap. The bad news is that we only have one more lap to try and close up to Burton and make a pass. The good news is that we only have one more lap to try and keep our distance from the car behind us and fend them off. It looks like they've disappeared as well. We're still trying to get a good exit out of the keyhole, even though it looks like it's going to be a long shot to get this position back. Big oversteer there. Of course, there's nobody behind us anymore, so at this point, I guess I'm just kind of having fun. Like I said, I sort of gave up on trying to pull out any decent result this weekend since something is obviously not right. So I'm just having fun, just trying to enjoy, you know, driving such a cool car on a cool track. I mean, sometimes, especially when things get frustrating, you have to remember that, you know, a bad day at the racetrack is better than a good day at the office. Even though it's like 90 degrees out, so it's a little bit hot, but you know, I'm so lucky to be able to get to do this as we take the checkered flag. And sometimes it's good to just sit back and appreciate things, even when you're in the middle of it. So let's take a look at the results. Jonathan Kotick takes another win ahead of Alex Scaler, Ayrton Ori, Dexter Tsuba, and Christopher Huron got another top 5 finish there. We're down in 14th, which is certainly better than the 17th where we started. A little bit worse, obviously, than the 13th where we finished the last race. And it's certainly not where we want to be. You know, we definitely want to be in the top 10 at this point. So again, it's the disappointing weekend continues. The picture is becoming a little bit more clear on what's going wrong. Even though in the first race we had some corner exit understeer, and this time we've got corner entry oversteer. But I think if you look back on the changes that we were making between this race and our last event in Montreal, things come a little bit more clear. I'll get more into it in the third race when it becomes quite clear, since I'm going to be battling with someone, and you'll see the back and forth sort of illustrates really well what was wrong with the car. So let's take a look at the championship standings now. Now keep in mind there's a lot more than 20 drivers in the championship, but I'm just taking the top 20 just to make things a little bit more simple. We're still down in 19th. Christopher Huron has overtaken us into 18th. Of course, this is only his second race in the championship, but he's been in the top 5 both times, so good for him. Matt Gidman is behind us. I think he was in 21st at the end of the last race. But yeah, we're pretty much where we are. We've gained a few points. Jonathan Kotick is in the lead, Josh Green. As I was building these, I realized that Jonathan Kotick and Josh Green are the only 2 drivers at this point who have won a race in this championship. And you can see they're sort of pulling away. They've both got over 300 points, and the closest driver is down below 250 points. Misha Goikberg is going to continue falling down the order since he did the first couple races and then no more. But yeah, we're in 19th place. We're still trying to recover from the abysmal start to the year when we missed 2 of the first 3 races, and then we missed the entire weekend in Montreal. Or in, where was it? Watkins Glen, rather. So it's going to be a long road back, and we're just going to have to keep plugging away, keep trying to get good results when we can, trying to keep the car in good shape, which is kind of what we were not able to do this weekend. But we'll be back next week with race 3, and we'll talk about what was wrong with the car, what we can do to fix it, and then go from there. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you later.